Do we have any comments from the public? Anything, anybody? Then we'll move to item 3, consider an act on request for adjustments or relief. Anything? Thanks. Yeah. Consent agenda, item 4 through 7, minutes, financial reports, tax collection reports, attendance approvals. Any questions on any of those consent agenda items?
Typo in the minutes. Very minor. I didn't look at it.
Okay, well, can you?
Stephanie's last name is misspelled, bottom page 3, left on R. Thank you. Take care of you.
Good catch. Any questions, discussion, comments on the consent agenda items? If not, would somebody like to motion that we approve the consent agenda items?
Sure.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. I'll second that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Takes us to item 8. It's 4:31. Review and act on district's draft FY 23-24 operating budget and recommended water and sewer rates.
All right, last month we went over the proposed draft budget. This month I have for you the updated final memo for the draft for the budget, as well as the updated final draft itself, for the budget itself. We didn't make any appreciable changes to the budget itself over the last month, so if there's any questions, let me know.
It says review and act on the district's draft fiscal year. So I guess technically we are acting on the final proposed
Correct.
fiscal year 23-24.
This takes into consideration the proposed tax rate setting as well as the water and sewer rate adjustments.
And there's no meaningful changes from what we discussed last time.
No, the main thing was on the TAN area, 5300.03 was engineering technical services. We added $7,000 in for lead and copper adjustment or lead and copper rule revision to build the inventory. That was 1,000.
But this doesn't include the tax rate that we're gonna set. Both in.
The tax rate at the top is yes.
Well, but I was looking at the memo about the budget under maintenance tax. It says it's whatever it is today for 23, down from last year's 0.104. Let's. I think I still remember that's up.
Yeah.
Down. It's up rather than down. Okay. I assumed it was just a.
We had that comment last. We had that comment.
Oh, okay.
And as a reminder,
But
the
it didn't
admin,
get the.
yeah, the admin fee still is going down from 718 to 7.
So that's gonna be up.
Yeah.
You know, if I remember, the big issue was how much we want to have in reserves, right?
Yeah, this budget.
Driving the rate up.
The 2024 deficit of 175,000. That creates about a 4.4 month reserve, which is very low.
So the 1115 or 1153 lowers our, it results in a deficit.
Mhm.
This doesn't reflect half carryover from current year.
You mean?
You'll start the year with a higher cash balance.
Right, that's right there.
That hasn't been.
Established. So 1,699,223, that's a projection.
Based on 11 months, 7 except September this month
Okay, so this is updated
through August.
through August. Okay.
Estimated.
Correct.
Okay.
And as we mentioned last month, kind of one of the big hitters was the large ditch repair. FF1 on the southwest corner of the district.
We published the 1153, right?
That's
So we can't go any higher than that.
Correct.
So, you know,
Kind of is what it is. Probably not gonna want to go tighter than that.
right. I think it's a done deal. We made that decision last month.
Any other questions, comments, discussion on budget, rates, et cetera? I make a motion that we approve the budget and rates as proposed. Need a second? Second. A second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, conduct a public hearing regarding district's intent to levy a 2023 tax rate.
So this relates to the two-step process we talked about last month. Last month, the board authorized publication of a notice of the district's intent to levy a tax not to exceed 0.115302. That was published in the Courier, correct? All right, so we've had that legal requirement. We can move on to the second step of the process, which is to conduct a public hearing and then consider the vote on the budget. So at this point, we need to adjourn our regular meeting and open the public hearing for any comments from the public. Comments from the public on the proposed district tax rate. There being none, we can consider closing the public hearing.
Okay, consider it closed and we'll reconvene in our MUD meeting.
All right, so that takes us to item number 10, consider the levy of the district's 23 tax rate and the adoption of the order. So we have prepared the order with the district's tax rate that was published in the Courier. All 11 cents and change will be going to maintenance and operations, since, as you know, this district has paid off all of its outstanding debt.
Okay,
Motion to approve. I'll pass it down for signature.
all right. Somebody like to make a motion that we approve the new tax rate as stated?
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
Either way, I'll do it.
Thank you, Don. You have a second? Stephanie seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next item, 11, approval and execution of the amended district information form. This is the document that we recall last month, the form of it to take into account the legislative changes. And we said it's kind of silly and inefficient that we got to do it 2 months in a row. But since we adopt the tax rate this month, we got to consider it again. None of the language in the notice to purchasers is changing except the tax rate. So all the other information is the same as what you approved last month. And we do need a motion to approve that amended district information form with the attached notice to purchasers and authorize us to record that in the property record as required by the public code.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. Stephanie seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Right, item 12. Receive SGRA Woodlands Division report. Chris Meeks.
I do not have anything on the report to cover. Before we get to any questions, Dan does want to cover something.
Okay.
Just real quick, the one thing I want to mention on that item is we've talked a lot about AC water lines over recent months. I don't want you to forget about the large wastewater program that we're looking at too, and strategic planning for that. So upcoming on October 24th, we have an all mud information meeting that will take place at 5 PM at Estrade's Woodlands office in the training room there. That will be an update on overall progress of that phase 2 strategic plan, the master planning, the layouts, updated cost estimates. Those are kind of the primary agenda items. So I encourage y'all to attend that because we will be, making decisions in the relative near future on how to progress that program also.
You say it was on sawdust?
Yep, it'll be our office outside us there. So October 24th in the evening, 5 PM.
All right, thank you. Anything else on that item 12? If not, then we are going to consider, move to item 13, consider an act on additional research by the SJRA on the AC water lines.
So at the trustees meeting last week, Ed spent a little bit of time going and having conversation, going through the items I'm going to go over here in a minute. I'm going to hit the highlights. There's a very good recap on page 33. It goes through everything. The essence of time and allowing more discussion, like I said, I'm going to hit the highlights. But essentially what it is we've heard some of the directors have questions about, hey, I think y'all talked about it as well with the resolution, waiting for a new general manager to come on board before going forward with the AC lines. Ed's taken that and considered that and got to know that and understand that a little bit more. So that's in here. But at the base of this entire thing is we're looking to pause the replacement of the AC lines and move forward with the condition assessment only at this time. What that means is right now, no construction on replacing AC lines and no further design. So we'll finish town center since it's already 95% done. We'll finish that off. We just won't move into construction. And then we're not looking to move to do any design of any additional lines at this time. Instead, we're looking for a general consensus of how this mud feels about moving forward with the condition assessment. Condition assessment would be an engineering firm coming on board that's an expert with AC line replacement, condition assessments, as well as potentially destructive and non-destructive testing. Now, at this point, we're still trying to see the general consensus of all the muds and how to go forward. It could be one big plan that, it's basically one contract and we go forward. Could be done in multiple phases where basically you hit the high priority lines, North Town Center, 6 Pines, so on and so forth. Get that information, then move into like a phase 2 where you look at those lines that are further out to be replaced. So that is still up in the air. But we are looking from a general consensus for you to see if y'all would like to pause the AC line replacement and move forward with condition assessment.
So I was at that meeting and the idea that made the most sense to me is we already have a lot of design work done for the town center area. One of the pipes that's supposed to be replaced is being replaced not only because it's old, but also because they need a bigger pipe. So it's going to have to be done anyways. And the idea that made sense to me is that we go ahead and prioritize that one that's got to be replaced due to capacity anyways, and at least get an initial feel for what that line looks like, because it's what, a mile?
We think it's just over half a mile to a mile or so, 6 Pines line. The one thing that wasn't brought up, and we're not against, go ahead and going forward with that, just to keep in mind is that pipe on 6 Pines is the only AC pipe that we're aware of that was manufactured in Mexico. And I bring that up because when we're repairing it, we have to use different clamps, and to me, it's similar to, a Ford and a Chevy. It's still a truck, but it's not the same. But it can be done. I'm just saying there is that little anomaly that's there. It could give you some very good information for what's installed during that time frame during whichever contractor installed it.
So it's the only section of pipe by that particular manufacturer
That I'm aware of, from what we could tell, because when you're trying to fix it, your stuff doesn't fit, then you got to make a special.
Was it a size issue or something?
It is.
That's why
The OD is different from a normal American manufacturer, if you will.
that didn't come out last week.
But it still does provide some value. It's just one of those things just to keep in mind. It is, manufacturer's a big deal when you look at anything, PVC or anything else.
Right.
You're saying it's not really manufactured different, the actual specs are different.
Correct.
size is different, manufacturer is different, location where it was manufactured is different. Yeah.
It may not be as representative as
Well,
we
that
first thought
exactly.
for the rest of us.
Well, I guess then, in my opinion, I would want to identify a section of pipe that is more representative. It sounds like, that one's got to be replaced anyways,
Right.
but it may not give us very good information. So maybe we need to look for the second priority then to be the one that we actually learn better information from.
And that's kind of what we're hoping the consultant, would know. The consultant can help us identify, prioritize, and said, this is a good mix of where you should go do
Mhm.
your condition-based testing.
That makes sense to me.
Just one thing I did forget to mention, in this bag up here, in case anybody has not seen it, wants to see it, is a piece of asbestos cement pipe. So I've left it over here in case people didn't want it in front of them, but it is taped up and sealed. Don't poke holes in it. But in case you've never seen what AC pipe looks like, you want to see it up close. Here's some here. Show and tell.
And that's from a recent break.
That is, the past few months. We did have a break, just for your information, Friday at Timberwild and South Millbend. Got it. Included 4 times. AC pipe, 16-inch, had a crack on the bottom. Did pull about 8-10 foot piece out, and we have it crated up and sitting in a dry, cool place out of the light for testing in the future.
What size was it?
16. And there.
Cost.
It was a crack along the bottom, which generally means at this point, it was actually the ground shifting because the bell itself, the coupling, was askew as well. And
And it wasn't related to third-party work,
it was not
related to drought, probably.
correct. It was about 8 foot deep, if I can remember.
Are you happy with the installation?
Well, there's no bedding. It was surrounded by clay.
Which is not what we expect, right?
Right. If there was some sand or something else that would allow a little bit more flex, you would have been better, but clay moves a lot.
I don't think any of us would want any of our citizens to have no water or busted pipe. But in a purely economic view or cost effectiveness, that's a whole lot of money over there with restaurants, and they don't tolerate closing overnight too well. Never mind a day or 3, when you're talking about 6 or 8 restaurants that are high dollar. Seems to me a better economic value. I don't think that should make us stop doing somebody else. But it seems to make sense to kind of start there, since we know it has issues. I had a question about the overall contract. If we've studied, is it done in phases so that if we did half of the money and found out there's not a thing wrong with the pipes, we can stop studying? We don't have to go all the way and determine that the rest of it's the same way, or vice versa.
You can, and Dan can get into that here in a minute. I'll give some time to think by saying this. Just keep in mind that similar to Six Pines, it was one manufacturer, one contractor, one design, one soil type in one area. So there is a little bit of assumption and risk in extrapolating that data from 1 or 2 or 5 areas across the entire wilderness. So, Dan, you can answer there. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I anticipate, some sort of phase program to where
Yeah, I would
there
just,
would be milestones to where if we learn something that gives us confidence that we don't need to move forward with additional testing, we would probably have the opportunity to pause. But yeah, I think it's looking at where the more critical lines are and start there, and work through it.
yeah, we're voting money here. It seems like we would use it in a series. And if we got to some point where whoever felt like it was no need to go more studying, but to go full bore. So I said, again, the more we put it off, the better chance we have of, if it is a problem, then it's going to start creeping up in the way that we don't want our citizens to look at us as somebody that we put it off for 5 years to study it. Meanwhile, everybody's lines are popping. And we just got a slow head start.
I think, with the best estimate we've had, talking to some consultants, is that 3.5 million over 4 years. I feel optimistic it could be done quicker than that, or we would have at least some data sooner, based on that phasing.
In other words, we don't have to spend it all.
Right, and there will be some level of kind of a sunk cost to upfront engineering, setting up an approach, and the back end, evaluation of the data, but that uncertainty that I currently have is, what level of testing, how many tests, what type of tests, what technologies, and where. That's the unknown portion, I would say.
Thank you.
So it says consider and act on. Is there a specific proposal that we're supposed to act on, or is this more of a, we're taking the temperature or the testing the water?
We'd like to test the water rather than a formal vote. If the general consensus of all the MUDs is to move forward with condition assessment, then Dan and his team will issue an RFQ to start looking for a consultant to come on. We just don't want to start down that path if the MUDs want to go down the right path, left path. That's what sounded really bad. Want to go in another direction.
So what would you suggest based on, you've been through multiple meetings now, you've met with them separately from the board. You've been in the industry for a long time. We still don't really know AC pipe that well. What's your
What we've
idea?
what we've talked about in the meeting thus far is, I think, focusing on getting the consultant on board first. Because I think at that point, you hone in on the price, you hone in on the strategy, you hone in on the testing procedures, which we're gonna need to implement as well going forward. So we're gonna need some insight there. So I think those are a good start. I think we're, as part of the pause, there was talk about the GM placement, being part of that trigger. I think you don't need to really talk about, or you don't need to make a decision about what to construct at this point, whether it's Six Pines or Town Center, for a couple more months. I think that's coming pretty quick anyway. We don't know the numbers. If we were talking about doing Six Pines right now, we don't even know what that split out is. And, that's another issue that needs to be developed as well, is what's the cost? What's the cost? I mean, we know 3.5, but
If you're doing
where's it gonna come from?
Yeah.
Right? Are there surpluses? Do we need bonds? We probably don't need bonds for the testing stuff, but if we split out a piece of project, how's that gonna get funded? So there's a lot of unknowns right now, and I think the one thing that you probably can focus on is getting a consultant in, an expert that would give us a little bit clearer guidance in what direction to go as it pertains to gathering data for the condition-based assessment, if that's something that you want to do. I'd be in favor of that, or would support it.
So if everything gets pushed back a year, which looks like we're headed that way, at least, I mean, there's no reason we can't pick, if we get information over the next 6 months or a year that the pipes are all of a sudden now having problems, I mean, we can get back on this track again, 1 year delayed if.
Keep in mind, Town Center is not set to go to construction until January of 25. So you have just over a year anyways. There's a possibility you can get the data beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing that we didn't mention, kind of talked around, was, it makes sense that since Town Center has been designed, that whether you go forward with Six Pines early or not, or first or not, once the testing gets underway, you probably want to focus on that because it's ready to go. It's shovel ready, supposedly, theoretically. So if it was determined in the testing that yes, in fact, that may be where you want to focus on your first construction efforts, it's already designed. So it probably makes sense to start there with your testing. I don't think testing Six Pines by itself was going to give you too much data anyway, at a half a mile or a mile or so. I mean, you can pop one test, and at least I think it's worth getting some data on it just to see how it relates to.
How old is that pipe?
1970 something, right?
Like 40 plus, 45 plus.
Close to 50 years.
From the beginning, right?
Yeah.
76.
It's not the oldest, but it's in the
Getting there.
5-year range within the
A
oldest.
bit behind Grogan's Mill, and that's about it.
Then I'm gonna ask for an informal show of hands as to who is in favor of pausing the whole AC line replacement agenda, and so that we can bring in a consultant, pay for the consultant and testing to get more information before we ramp up to full speed. So there's 3, 4, everybody. Here's your answer.
And we will come back in the future with budgetary numbers and possibly a budget amendment because there are no funds in the current budget for this. So it could be an FY25 item, but we'll work that out later.
Is it something that can be funded from your excess funds because of the drought?
Quite possible.
So let's make sure we look at that before you ask for more money from us.
Entirely agree. That's honestly what we've talked about using it to fund. We won't have those final numbers till December, maybe January, which lines up perfectly with budget amendments.
Since we made this, it looks like the WWA is going this direction. Can we modify our communication so we don't? I think some of our communication is pushed down about need to replace stuff and water lines breaking and, need to spend $180 million. I mean, clearly this is a big decision to pause at $180 million. We need to make sure our communications are consistent with that. What we told the suppliers at our contractor day needs to be withdrawn also.
Agree. We'll chat with, we told Dan we're good.
Would there be more, the town center, would there be more than the one pipe that you're gonna look at or replace? I mean, the 16s don't go to everybody's building.
Yeah, I don't know the sizes of.
I mean, there are other lines in there that you would be looking at.
You you guys presented
A lot of it's 12-inch too.
a map of where they would sample.
And you haven't had trouble with that yet.
That breaks on.
Okay, so that, I guess that was my point, is I'm not suggesting we should go do it just because they're important people, but the fact that you're gonna do the project, you got a design, it seems to me it'd be a good place to start the study, is to dig up some 12-inch line and 16 inches there, as well as taking care of the problem that they see.
The only other thing I'll add is we have uploaded dozens of documents to the Google Drive for y'all to reference, including AWWA journal articles, Water Research Foundation articles that are peer reviewed. We've received, I think, around 35 questions from various mud directors. So there's a document on there that provides responses to all those questions, appendices with maps and spreadsheets, so you can get lost there as much as you desire. But you make all that information that we have available.
Thanks. All right,
Good job.
thank you. So let's move on to item 14, receive update regarding status of Bear Branch and Panther Branch and research forest drainage improvements.
Good afternoon. Quick update. We had our last progress meeting on September 12th. And Woodlands Water SJRA was a good conversation. We basically, LJ has completed their draft memorandum on the alternatives analysis. A lot of the discussion was about that, but we're currently in the phase of reviewing their analysis and providing comments. And the only other thing that came out of it is they're going to do a little bit of additional modeling, some additional scenarios that have to do with pre-Atlas 14 rainfall. Because everything they're doing so far is all.
When do we think we're gonna start actually moving dirt on this one?
The question you keep getting asked, I think the earliest will be 2025. Is that right, man?
Yeah, we have to look up the date. That was asked at the last Monday too, but it is a ways out.
Okay.
There is still additional engineering design that would need to be done. One thing we are planning is, once we get this final alternatives analysis from LGA, we are looking to schedule probably end of October, early November timeframe, a meeting with the participating MUDs to present those results. So still working on dates, logistics, format for that, but there'll be more to come. And you will get a chance to see that and be presented that.
Okay,
You're probably already there, but I keep failing to mention the page in your packets, page 21. There's a one pager in there. As you can see, the project's still on schedule. Building is still a little bit behind the project. So number of reasons for that, but we should catch up quickly.
thank you. Any questions? Let's move to item 15. Dan, you're going to tell us about the Spring Creek detention study.
So no real update on that item. The only real significant is just, we have a third public meeting that will be hosted probably March, April, timeframe next year. Something that came up in another MUD meeting was just provide some sort of update similar to the Bear Branch one pager regarding schedule status, billing, invoice status on the various tasks. So that's something we would, we're working to put together and try to provide you that next MUD, not probably something we would provide on a monthly basis, but at least we give you something, because I don't think we have in a year since that's been going on.
Then can we do that going forward? Just make sure this is only on the agenda when we actually have updates? Because I mean, you don't have to sit here and answer the same question over and over and over.
Fine with however y'all want to structure.
It seems to me if there's nothing going on, there's not another meeting till March or April, why keep putting it on the agenda? And if there is stuff going on, you tell them to put it on the agenda.
I'll just say no update and move on.
I'll leave that up.
People don't do that though. They like to talk.
Either way. I don't like
That
to
would
lose
be
sight of
ideal.
projects that aren't done, but either way,
That would be ideal if that's how it worked.
you can tell them to say that next time.
Okay. Then item 16, attorney's report.
Nothing to report.
Like it. Item 17, receive and or act on the general manager.
Sorry, I don't have no. Real quick, I do have a couple quick things. The budget was one of the bigger things, so we're done. We did that, but I did want to make note to the board that Jim's last day was last Thursday. So he is officially no longer with WWA. You will have an opportunity to say goodbyes and say hi to him again. We're planning on doing kind of a reception for him, probably an after hours deal, probably in the next month or so. We hadn't set the date yet, but we're working on logistics right now. So more to come on that. Want to point out a few things here in the packet and probably that you've been seeing in the news is a significant amount of municipalities in the area have gone to a heightened drought contingency restriction. I'm happy to report that the Woodlands has not had to, and we don't plan to. And kudos to all the folks involved over the years, over the past decade, to put us in a good spot with surface water, because that is essentially the direct relationship to avoiding it at this point, with about 50% of your water coming from surface water. So that's put us in a good position to have some redundancy and some safeguards. You also see in the news there's a number of municipalities are considering water and sewer rate adjustments, as you know, as well as some bond referendum and things like that. So there's a lot of, in the immediate area, there's quite a few municipalities that are looking at those things. I wanted to point out a couple. We continue to get customer appreciation for interaction with our staff members. I always like to see those. Last thing I had was just to kick it over to John to update you on our public outreach.
Evening. So on page 28, you've got communications report. And so this month I wanted to zero in on what we're hearing from the community. I want to share some of that with you. Not surprisingly, a lot of chatter out there emanating from the drought. So with drought, we see higher consumption. Higher consumption, folks are scrutinizing their bills more. They're talking more. And with that, well, first, that's a good thing, right? We want folks understanding their water use better and understanding how their bills are determined. And so we put a lot of effort towards that. It's also fertile ground for misinformation and confusion. We do see a lot of that, especially across social media platforms. We get lumped in with other providers, their policies, their rate structures. A lot of folks really don't make the connection between consumption and cost. And I clipped one of many social media posts that are out there. You can see next to on the right side there on page 28. This is a typical post. This individual, and please note, this is not a Woodlands Water customer, and I blacked out all the personal information. But this is fairly typical. They're upset they had a $448 water bill. Why are these bills so high? Is the question posed. Well, if you look there, it's kind of hard to see, but in the highlight, they use 62,000 gallons of water. And so, you know, folks, we're so used to water being so cheap and so accessible that when we use a lot more, it hits this threshold. It's different for each one of us. We start to think, oh, shoot, well, you know, my gosh, my water bill's high. Can we look at this? So that's very typical. Not picking on this individual is quite common, and we're seeing a lot more of that. So concerns about high water bills in relation to the drought. So putting a lot of effort towards getting good information out there in a tone that is empathetic, that is clear and transparent, how bills are determined, and then help getting those bills down, right? So putting water smart in their hands. It's a great tool. Help them understand their water use and keep their bills low. How to manage their lawn better, right? Most of our water use goes into the outdoors, especially during the summer. Give them tools to efficiently manage their lawn and landscape. Define irrigation schedule, you know, that's been a critical tool since 2014, which is implemented. It's been continuous since that time. It's not tied to drought, it's always in effect. That's another reason that we're in a good position given the circumstances. We've had advanced policy as far as water use, and that's made us good stewards for water resources. So reminding folks why that's there, that it is there, and addressing some of the confusion there. We see a lot of folks still aren't aware of it, or have questions about it. So pushing the information out on defined irrigation is something we do a lot. All right, website, pleased to announce that it's still performing well. August was our second highest month ever as far as visitation. And I put a little breakdown in there for you on where folks are visiting within the website. And I can break that down further if you have questions. The Woodlands Water Weekly, so that's our new e-blast. We rebranded that based off of a contest amongst readers. So we had 100 entries, and customer of ours by popular vote won with Woodlands Water Weekly, so that's our new term for it. And that continues to be, again, an important tool for us. You know, we've got about 12,000 accounts reading that each week. And that does feed a lot of our social media content. So, and you'll notice a stronger lean into value as we're now in that focus area for our plan. Folks appreciate the value of our water system. Page 30, some examples of some of our marketing content that's out now. And with we'll focus on value. And then on page 31, some high-level statistics on Water Smart. Right now, we've got about 10% of all single-family residents are actively using Water Smart. Definitely registered, but that's how many are actively using it. So lots of room to grow there. So we continue to put effort into that. We're seeing a continual incline in registration usage. We want to even that curve. And commercial, even more room to grow there as well. We're working with SJRA on the infrastructure communications consultant. Notice to proceed is happening someday soon. Eric will be at an initial meeting with them and the new consultants Holloway sometime soon.
Next week, I think it's in a week or so.
In 1 week, okay.
Next week.
So we'll have more report on that shortly. And then Lastly, our outreach events calendar is there for you. We encourage you, invite you to attend any of those with us. Any questions?
I had, the newsletters and the native plants and the non-native plants and stuff you send out. I know that more of your customers get that, but I stay busy forwarding to other MUDs outside of this county and other places. And, I just basically say, you can do this too. It's not restricted to the Woodlands. So a lot of these are innovative, and I pass those on to other districts. And I want to say, while y'all were patient enough to have me in England for a while, about every 3 days, I got a text saying that my water had exceeded my average. I'm in the north of England being told that either I have a leak or someone's stealing my water, or my neighbor was there to water my house plants. But it showed up I think it's a wonderful conservation tool. Because had it not been one of those two, I would have known I had a leak. It'll show me that it'll even show you're running all night.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the volume.
We have some marketing out right now that carries that theme forward, which leave your worries behind with Water Smart. Right? Go on vacation, get a leak alert, and have your neighbor or Woodlands Water go shut off the water for you.
But I like
It's a
the
great
outreach.
customer support tool.
The outreach has been good.
Cool. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Right. That takes us to item 18, Woodlands Water Trustees Report. And basically, we talked about the Woodlands Water Agency budget and AC pipe and all the other things that you've heard about today. Nothing else to report on. Item 19 is a recess to close session if necessary. Thank you. But we won't reconvene. Stay convened. Item 21 is discuss any matters for future agenda. I will go, Shelley, I noticed one other thing on the minutes. We have Ed Shackelford is with Howard Hughes Corp. On the minutes. So we'll just make sure.
Y'all know about that? Could have told him.
Yeah,
Why he's not here tonight.
surprise.
I had just a point of privilege. I wanted to, if you're done with
Well,
it,
just, is there anything else you want to put on the?
I don't want an agenda.
Yeah, so I've been made aware that there's the AWWA is sponsoring a symposium or seminar, I guess, on pipeline condition assessment seminar. I think, Chris, you're going, or Dan is, and Eric's talking about going. This might be something we want to consider sending a director to.
Where is it?
It's in Dallas.
Dallas.
It's December or November 6th through 8th. It's a Monday through Wednesday. So
It starts at 8:30 in the morning on Monday, so you did probably have to be there either start
yes, yeah,
early
yeah.
or get there the day before, the night before.
It's at the Sheraton Dallas.
They still have their contests, their repair teams and meter sets and stuff. It's pretty neat to watch those guys.
This would be this one. Yeah, this will be a 2.5-day seminar given by the authors of those Costa Mesa article from AWWA that's been the topic of this
Oh, okay.
started this whole
That'd
discussion.
be neat.
The consultants from HDR Engineering.
A good group.
Two of the three speakers, I think.
Yeah, they're also co-authors of the AWWA M77.
Yeah, and so my understanding is that's kind of what they're going to go through is M77.
I think it's 3 days of us sitting being seminar.
Yeah.
I mean, a good opportunity for one of us to go and get some more in-depth knowledge, because this, I mean, we deferred it now for 2 years. This will come back to us. And as we look at the data that the consultant provides, I guess, I assume we're in the member price.
I am a member, but I think the the MUDs would have to adopt a membership.
Membership.
I don't believe that falls under in general.
The difference is $100, whether you're, it's 1,045 if you're not a member, 945 if you are a member.
Myself and Mike are planning to go as well. There's been one other director from another MUD that's expressed interest as well.
It's a long-standing respected group. I mean, AWWA, you know, they've been around a long time.
This is not their general meeting. This is just focus on
It's
this.
one meeting.
It's just a seminar on this one topic.
Me personally, I'm good with our general manager and assistant general manager and the SGRA experts going. However, if somebody else wants to go, I'm happy to put it up for a vote and we can decide if we want to fund it. And we can, so if, like, for example, if you want to volunteer to go,
I can't go. That's, I mean.
oh, you can't make it?
No, I can't make it. This is an opportunity I'm sharing for the group.
That's fine. We
So,
just,
I mean, the goal, it'd have to go on next month's meeting.
Hmm.
But we can decide whether we want to put it on next month's meeting and support
that
somebody
could go
go.
on the agenda. Yeah. Good.
So one of you guys want to interested in, you guys can talk about it afterwards. Well, not more than 3 of you, not more than 2 of you.
I think at most it should be one, but
No, I meant talk about it.
No one can or is not interested, then not put it on the agenda.
does anybody want to and able to go? I can't go.
And I'm happy to support somebody going. If you guys want to go, but
3 days in Dallas.
We can always approve one. And if somebody goes, that's it.
Well,
sounds like there's no interest. So.
And the interest is just Dallas at 4:30 in the morning. And bother.
yeah. Okay, well, it's a good idea and
I agree.
and I'm okay bringing it up again next month, just in case somebody changes their mind.
Let's do
We
that.
can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, by then I'm able to do that.
I think yeah, just need to make sure we understand how much we're gonna appropriate. Right. If it's $1,000 plus 3 days, it's about a $2,000 expense probably. I will be out next month for this month meeting. But I am available, go to the WWA meeting.
Yes.
Good. Okay, anything else?
I had one more, I said a point of privilege. That on Thursday, the 28th of September, those of you interested in the water table level, you know, USGS does an annual report on the distance from the earth to the water, surface of the water. They study several hundred wells and have for 40 years. So it's a good opportunity to see the last year. They do it around January when the pumps can be turned off. Then they show you the difference between last year and this year and the last 40 years and this year. So it's a very, USGS is one of the more respected independent science groups. And so it's just a fact from here to here. So it'll be on the Woodlands Green, If you go there, you'll find a link to the lecture. It's at 7 o'clock. It's on Zoom. And last year we had like 55 people.
Can you would you be open to bringing a report on that?
Yeah, last year we had a delay because I said USGS had to go to 5 different county cities and states to get a permission to put that out because some of the information was new. So this year I plan to be able to have a link
That would probably be good.
to see that report. Yeah, I'll make sure we bring that. But Jason Ramage is a longtime employee there and he's been doing it for me every year for like 5 years. And he's a hydrologist with.
That ought to be on the Woodlands Water Agency agenda too. So all the MUDs get it.
It'd be good.
We're pushing out notice and then we'll put out the report here.
So you'll report on that then at the Woodlands Water Agency?
Appreciate that.
Good. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, that's all we have on the agenda. Meeting adjourned.
Sure.